Hello all, I am Dr. J. Pavitra, Associate Professor, Department of Management Studies, School of Management and Commerce, Bharat Institute of Higher Education and Research, Chennai. In this video, we are going to be discussing on the ratio analysis. Let us move on to the learning objectives. We shall discuss on the meaning of ratios, the utility of ratios, classifications of various ratios, in which we are going to be studying in detail on this liquidity ratios, profitability ratios, solvency ratios, and turnover ratios. Let us move on to the first meaning of the ratio analysis. What is the ratio analysis? The ratio term has already been used in the mathematical conversations and mathematical context. In this context, we are viewing in terms of the relationship with two items or the group of items in which they are taken from the financial statements and then calculated. It is an important tool relating to the management accounting as stated earlier, like the financial statement analysis. It is used to interpret the financial statements to that of the give the strength and weakness of the firm and also make the past performance and the current conditions and the status of the business. What is meant by this ratio? Ratio is a mathematical yardstick which is being given to determine the relationship between the two figures or two groups which are related to each other and are mutually interdependent. It is expressed maybe in terms of pure ratio or percentage or as a rate. What is the usage of the ratios in which we in this financial text context we are taking it as accounting ratios which are very highly useful for making the status of the financial position and also enterprising about the profitability of a business. In this utility is also taken along to compare about the 2 year period or 5 year period about the performance of a business. Various other utilities of the ratios may be there may be a comparison between the same enterprise and given with the number of years from the past year to the present year. And two companies in the same industry can also made as a comparative study by analyzing and calculating the various ratios. And then we are having the enterprise between the industries and also the whole industry can be compared and analyzed with the help of the ratio analysis. And then one enterprise also can be predetermined standard and various subsidiary companies also can be analyzed. And between the industries and inter-segmental comparison also can be made with the usage of the ratio analysis. Various classifications of the ratios are available, such as the first one is the liquidity ratio, capital structure ratio, profitability ratio, and activity ratios. These four ratios are going to be an important tools and techniques used for the calculation. All these four categories are having a detailed overview about the separate liquidity ratio, separate capital ratio, profitability ratios, and activity ratios. Let us move on to this first segment of liquidity ratio. What is the liquidity ratio? This ratio is going to be giving you the highlight of the short-term financial position and indicate the ability of the business towards the short-term commitments. How much is the short-term commitments of the current liabilities and what are the resources that are being available for a shorter period of time. This is also known as the solvency ratios as it may be converted into cash for contingency and urgency purposes. In this liquidity ratio, there are two compositions of ratios such as current ratio and the liquid ratio, which is again another term called as liquidity ratio, quick ratio or acid test ratio. First is the current ratio. This current ratio is going to be assessed by taking the current assets and current liabilities, in which we are able to say about how much is the percentage and how much is the overview of the current ratio towards the current liabilities. And by the formula, we are able to assess about the current ratio, which is current assets divided by current liabilities. Here they are stating that the current ratio of 2 is to 1, which is meaning that 2 of the current asset and 1 part of current liability. The more of current liability is also not good for the business, and also the more of current assets is also not good for the business. The current asset should be always rotational and not left idle, whereas the current liabilities are always going to be settling down the short term obligations which are needed for the business. So, here the ideal ratio of 2 is to 1 is considered to be the satisfactory ratio. Here we can see what are the current assets. The current assets such as the inventories of raw material, the stock of raw materials, or WIP is work in progress, and the finished goods, where we are stating it as the inventory. And next we are having the second stores and spares, and sundry debtors, receivables, short-term loan deposits and advances, cash in hand and bank, prepaid expenses, incomes receivables, marketable investments, and short term securities. These are some of the current assets. In the balance sheet, we will be able to find out all these items. Some items may be there, such as prominently be there about the inventory, where we can have the detailed notes when we are checking about the company balance sheet. It may be in the form of a statement format, which will be shown as the current and non-current assets. We have to take only the current assets such as the inventories. Total of the separation will be given, such as for the raw material, work in progress, and the finished goods. However, we are going to be taken the total inventory as a whole, and then we are having the sundry debtors. Here the sundry debtors, where the customers are going to be making the payment for the goods taken at a later date, and which is going to be taken as a receivables. And we have the short term loans and deposits and advances. Here the short term advances and the deposits for the institutions are resources which are taken as the current assets. And we know about this cash in hand and cash at bank, the cash which is there rotational for the business, and the cash at bank which is there at the bank, and prepaid expenses which are already being paid in advance, and income receivables and the accounts receivables are one and the same. And then we have the marketable investments, which is in the form of the securities or short term securities. These are all some of the current assets to be named. Next is the current liabilities, which will be seen in the liability side of the balance sheet, such as the sundry creditors, bills payable, outstanding expense, unclaimed dividend, and we have the income received in advance, provision for taxations, proposed dividend, installments of loan payable, bank overdraft, and cash credit. Here, this sundry creditors is going to be the payment which are to be made by the business for the raw material suppliers, in which the bills are going to be paid. Outstanding expense. Sometimes there will be some time period being given to pay their expenses, which will be treated as the current liability. It's a short term expense and will be paid as soon as possible. An unclaimed dividend. Every business will be claiming their dividend after making the profits and giving to the shareholders. And then advances received. Any advances, the loan advancements which are being received, can also be taken as a liability, and which has to be repaid. Income received in advance. So advances received is different from the income received in advance. The incomes which are being given by the other people are received in advance. And then we have the provision for taxation, the provisions that are made for the tax purposes, and the proposed dividend which will be given after the completion of the financial year and about the audited purposes. Installments of the loan that is going to be paid and repayable within the period of 12 months. And then bank overdraft, which is the facility given for the business who have the current account. And then cash credit as well is also going to be the current liability. These are all the current liabilities. From this we are able to assess about the current ratio, and from that we are able to find out the position of the current assets and the current liability for the short term evaluation of the business. Second, we go to the quick ratio or the acid test ratio. The quick ratio is going to be the difference between the quick assets and the current liabilities. So here the formula is going to be quick assets divided by current liability. Here they are stating about the quick ratio which is easily retrievable into the cash. So that is why they are stating it as the quick ratio and quick assets. And however, the current liabilities is also known as the quick liabilities as well. Quickly they have to dispose of their liabilities. And here also they are stating about the ideal quick ratio has to be 1 is to 1, as the quick assets properly converted into the cash is 1, and also the quick liabilities that is to be completely immediately paid off is also 1, which will be a satisfactory business performance. In this quick assets, how they are assessing about the quick assets, where they are stating that the already stated current assets are taken, but however they are not able to take about the prepaid expenses and the inventories. So here the prepaid expenses already paid, so it has to be ignored. And then after inventories, which is three processes are there: the raw material, work in progress, and the finished goods. In between the process that has to be eliminated, which will take time for the money to be rotated. And what are the quick liabilities? Here same like the quick assets, we are taking the current liabilities as already given, and but however they are eliminating the bank overdraft and the income received in advance. So the bank overdraft are always recurring, and income received in advance is also going to be not highly essential for the repayment of the liabilities obligations for the business. Next, after the liquidity ratios, we have another ratio which is the cash position ratio in the business, in the liquidity ratio, which is going to be giving you the ideality about the cash position of the cash in hand and the cash at bank, and divided by the marketable securities, and also the current liabilities will also be taken into the consideration for the liquidity ratio. Next we move on to the next segment of the capital structure ratio. The capital structure ratio is going to be where they are determining the long-term solvency. Here it is all otherwise called as the solvency ratios, which is going to be indicating the solvency of the business. How long the business is able to go into the operations and to meet the long-term commitments. So they may have taken about the loans and advances, and also going on to the investments in the stock market. This will be able to know about by calculating this capital structure or the solvency ratio. They will be able to know about the commitments towards the business in order for the repayment of the principal, and also the predetermined installments at a proper due dates, and the periodic repayment of the interest as well, during which the period of the loan has been taken place. In this capital structure ratio, we are able to have the more ratios for calculations, as we have to know about the solvency, which is going to be the important part for any business, in which these ratios are going to be classified as the first one, debt equity ratio, proprietary ratio, debt to total capital ratio, interest coverage ratio, and then debt service coverage ratio. First, we'll look about this debt equity ratio. What is this debt equity ratio? This ratio is going to be giving the proportion of how much debt and the equity is being invested in the business, which is going to be the financing of the company. And it is also calculated by taking the formula of long-term debts divided by shareholders' funds. Here they are stating about the long-term debts, which is going to be the long-term loans and the debentures that are being taken, and also the shareholders funds. What is this shareholders funds? We'll see. And this satisfactory ratio is also going to be 2 is to 1. The 2 is going to be for the long-term debt which can be repaid later, and then 1 is the ideal ratio for shareholders funds. This standard has to be properly applied, in which they are able to make about the nature of the business, and also make the risk amount of risk that is going to be involved for the business will be able to know from this calculation of the debt equity ratio. So what are the long term funds? As stated, the long term funds are going to be two types, which is being secured or unsecured. It may be a secured loans or unsecured loans. Like in the security, they are going to be taken some hypothecation of the documents, and unsecured without taking any surety or documentations. And then we are having this long-term funds in the case of debentures, bonds, loans from the financial institution. So the debentures are going to be taken from some financial institutions, and the bonds may be both the financial institution and also the governments, and the loans from other institutions such as the banks and also the non-banking financial institutions. Next, what is this shareholders funds? This shareholders funds are going to be the equity share capital and preference share capital if there is investment in the preference share capital, and the reserves and surplus, minus the fictitious assets such as the preliminary expenses or the past accumulated losses or the discount on issue of shares. Such are the fictitious assets that has to be subtracted. So while calculating the shareholders funds, the total of the equity share capital plus the preference share capital and the reserves and surplus. If there is a need to take on the fictitious asset, we have to consider the fictitious asset, but however, we have to subtract this fictitious assets. From this, we are able to find out what is the equity and then the long-term debt. Next, we move on to the proprietary ratio. The third and the second one is the proprietary ratio, which is going to be indicating the general financial strength of the business or being given by the long-term solvency of the business. So we are discussing on the solvency ratio. It is highly important to know what is the solvency of the business. So apart from the debt equity ratio, we have this ratio which is called the proprietary ratio. The proprietary ratio is being given the formula such as the proprietor's funds divided by the total funds or the assets. Here the ratios are going to be through the percentage that are being taken, as roughly they are estimating about 65 to 75 percentage of the proprietary ratio is taken as the ideal ratio and satisfactory for the business. So what is this proprietary funds or the shareholders funds, meaning the one and the same, which is taken as the equity share capital plus preference share capital and the debentures and subtracting the fictitious asset. Now what is the total funds that are being taken, both the fixed assets and the current assets, intangible assets, and taking all the assets and also taking the consideration, we are calculating this proprietary ratio. Next, the third is going to be the debt to capital, total capital ratio. In this ratio, they are going to be taken about the external borrowings or the outsiders liabilities which are being taken for the total capital that is being employed for the business. It is going to be indicating the proportion in which how much is the permanent capital that is going to be taken place of the firm, that is for the long term debt. Here they are stating about that long term debts divided by the total capital or the shareholders funds plus the long term debts. The total funds or the shareholders funds plus the long term debt is going to be calculated for taking the debt to total capital ratio. The ideal ratio is going to be 2 by 3 is going to be taken as the good position for the business. Next is the interest coverage ratio. We have to check about the interest rates and to know about the what is the status in which the performance of the business towards the interest rate. This ratio is going to be giving the debt servicing capacity in which the percentage of the fixed interest for the loans are going to be taken place. So it is showing about how much of the interest is going to be charged and taken, which is covered by the EBIT. EBIT meaning like the EBIT is earnings before interest and tax. This is the full form of the EBIT, which is going to be taken consideration for the calculation, where the formula is EBIT divided by the interest, in which they are able to find out about how from the earnings how much is the percentage of the interest that is to be paid for the business. Here the satisfactory is going to be 6 to 7 times is considered to be the satisfactory ratios, and highly the rate the greater the firm is going to be paying the interest for the profits. When the earnings are very good, they are able to make the interest and pay the interest on time. Next is the debt service coverage ratio, in which they are stating about the comprehensive needs, where they are calculating the debt servicing capacity towards the debt service obligation, the total debts obligation, which has to be covered with the interest and repayment of the principal in the equal installments, covering about the total operating funds after the tax. So here the formula for calculating the debt service coverage ratio is EAT. EAT meaning earnings after tax minus the interest plus the interest, and also we are taking the depreciation and other non-cash expenses are going to be taken here, divided by interest plus the principals for the installments. Here we are assessing about the debt service capacity towards after earning the earnings and the interest rates. And with the ideal ratio is going to be 2 is to 1, where 2 is going to be for the earnings plus the interest, depreciation and other non-cash expenses, and 1 is going to be taken for the interest plus principal installments. After the second segment of the solvency ratio, we stated about what is the solvency of the business and calculating all the debt coverage ratio, debt equity ratio, proprietors ratio, debt service ratio and interest coverage ratio. Now it is the time towards the profit. Every business is going to be highly monitoring on the profits. They are highly look about the main objective is to make about the profits. So let us move on to this third segment, which is the profitability ratios. This profitability ratio is going to be giving you the performance of the operating efficiency of the business, so that how much is the adequate returns are being able to take towards the shareholders. There are various profitability ratios can be measured. There are various classifications, such as two classifications are available. First in relative to the sales, and the second in relation to investments are being calculated. First, let us move on to the in relation to the sales, in which they are having three ratios, which is first one gross profit margin, net profit margin and the various separate expenses ratio. Then in for the relation towards the investments, we are having the various calculations of the ratios such as the return on investments, the return on capital employed, return on assets, return on shareholders' equity, earnings per share, dividends per share, dividend payout ratio, price earnings ratio. These are all in relation to the investments. First, move on to the sales. Relation to the sales, the first ratio is going to be the gross profit margin ratio. The gross profit we know about after taking the direct expenses, calculating all the direct expenses, we are able to make the gross profit, so that they are going to be relation towards the sales. So here they are taking the calculation as the formula is gross profit divided by the net sales into 100. Here we are representing in terms of percentage. So the higher the gross profit, they are going to be having the profit is going to be very good when coming to the net profit margin. Next, the firm. What is the gross profit? Here, the firm has to be profitably reasonable in taking the gross profit, as from this gross profit only they are ensuring about the operating expenses and a proper return is able to make for the business, which is to be given to the shareholders in the form of dividend, and to judge whether the ratio is proper satisfactory or not, in which they are able to compare with the past ratios which are already being calculated with the gross profit margin and similar firms on and make with the similar same industry can also be taken, which is taken for the industry average. Next is the net profit ratio. This net profit ratio is going to be calculated towards taking the net profit and sales. Here it is being expressed for the percentage. The ratio is going to be indicating how the firm is able to make the margin of the reasonable compensations to the owners for the investments in the capital after taking the cost of various expenses of the indirect expenses, about the cost of production, operating charges and other cost of borrowed funds. Here the formula is net profit after tax, after interest and tax divided by the sales, net sales into the 100, where we are representing in percentage. This net profit margin is going to be taken for also taken for the calculation with related to the operating profit margin. Operating profit margin is also going to be calculated, where in this operating profit margin they are taking only the net profit before the interest and tax, whereas the total net profit margin is taken for calculation after the interest and tax amount has been to be taken place for the calculation of the net profit ratio. The ratio is the greater is the capacity in which the firm can be withstanding towards the adverse economic conditions. Here the net profit is going to be taken, where they are taking about the net profit before the interest and tax into divided by the net sales into the 100. Next is the expenses ratio. So this is going to be highly essential, where separate expenses are going to be analyzed, where we are having the material consumed ratio. So the raw material consumed divided by the net sales into 100, where we will be able to know how much is the percentage of raw materials that are going to be taken for the production of the product and taken in the terms of percentage. Next we have the manufacturing expenses ratio, which is taken for the manufacturing expenses, as the direct expenses are taken for the manufacturing expenses, where we are calculating manufacturing expenses divided by net sales into 100. And we have the administration expenses ratio. All the administrative expenses are taken divided by the net sales into 100. Similarly, we have the selling expenses ratio. Selling expenses divided by the net profit, selling expenses divided by the net sales into 100. Operating ratio is also taken. Here for the operating ratio, they are taking the cost of goods sold and the operating expenses. They are taking also the operating expenses and the cost of goods sold divided by the net sales into 100. Next we have the financial expenses ratio. financial expenses divided by the net sales into 100. We are able to make the analysis for each and every expenses for the concerned expenses, able to highlight and taken as a percentage, in which able to find out what is the percentage for each and every expenses. So here the expenses ratio can be compared also similarly like other ratio over a period of time for the same company, or within two companies, or within the industry, or within the different industry, and make the industrial average and lower the expenses. So here not like the return or the gross profit margin ratio, where we expect about the higher is the ratio, the good position of the business, but here the lower is the expenses ratio, the better is the expenses can be reduced. The higher the ratio is going to be simplified, where they are going to be taken the small percentage of shares of sales is going to be available for the other liabilities to be supplemented. Next, in relation to the investments, we are having the first one of return on assets. So what is the return that has to be taken from the assets are going to be calculated. This ratio is going to be measuring the profitability of the total funds of the firm and bringing the relationship between the net profit towards the total assets. So they are going to be taking the over point of view of how the profit is going to be contributing towards the total assets. Here we have the formula of net profit after the tax plus interest divided by total assets into 100. So the total assets, all the assets such as the fixed asset, current assets, fictitious assets, and also the intangible assets are going to be considered, and it's expressed in the percentage. Next, we have the return on capital employed. In this return on capital employed, we are able to make the relationship between the net profit and the capital employed. It is going to be indicating the efficiency of the long-term funds for the business and its owners. So here the return on employed, capital employed is going to be taken as the net profit after the tax plus the interest divided by the capital employed into 100. So we know about this net profit after the tax and the interest. What is this capital employed? So this capital employed is nothing but the shareholders funds and also the long-term borrowed funds. So we have to represent both the shareholders funds, that is the share capital, equity share capital plus the preference share capital plus the reserves in surplus, and also the long-term borrowings. Next, we have the return on shareholders equity. So this ratio is going to be measuring about the ownership and the owners funds. The shareholders are going to be taken both for the preference shareholders and also the equity shareholders. What is the return that is going to be made? Here the return on total shareholders equity is going to be net profit after tax divided by the total shareholders equity into 100. So this shareholders equity is going to be calculated with the help of preference share capital plus the equity share capital plus the reserves and surplus, and subtracting the what are the losses and the fictitious assets, as we are able to make the good representation for the total shareholders funds, and bringing the average total shareholders funds also can be used as to determine the performance. Next, we have the return on ordinary equity. So here only the equity share is going to be taken place. So as usual about the net profit after the tax, and here minus the preference dividend. Since we are eliminating the preference share capital, we have to subtract the preference dividend divided by the ordinary shareholders equity. So what is this ordinary shareholders equity, which is going to be taken only the equity share capital plus the reserves and surplus and subtracting the fictitious assets. Next is the important one. We have to know about this earnings per share. What is the earnings per share? This is going to be representing the profit available to the equity shareholders and totally calculating on the per share basis. Here the ratio is going to be taken with the help of net profit after the tax minus the preference dividend divided by the number of equity shares. So here the company is going to be investing in the stock market and it is going to be divided per equity share, the number of equity share in which the company is being holding for the shareholders. That has to be taken into consideration for evaluating the earnings per share. Next we have this dividend per share. This is also an highly important ratios to be known. This ratio is going to be giving the how much is the dividend paid. After taking the profits, they have to take the percentage and make the dividend policies so that they have to be distributing some percentage of the dividend to the shareholders. Here the better indicator of the EPS is going to be the amount of dividend, the percentage of the dividend that is going to be declared, that will be impacting the earnings per share values, and also this dividend is received by the equity shareholders, and EPS, the earnings per share, is going to be properly known of how much is the going to be taken for the ordinary equity shareholders. The formula is going to be dividend paid to the ordinary shareholders divided by the number of shares. Next, we have another important ratio. This ratio is also included for the profitability ratios, since they are going to be determined how much is the dividend to be paid or the earnings per share that is to be paid for the business. The ratio is going to be indicating the relationship with the earnings belonging to the equity shareholders and the dividends that are going to be paid. So how to calculate this dividend payout ratio? Total dividend paid to the ordinary shareholders divided by the net profit after tax minus the preference dividend into 100. Or we are also having the other formula, dividend per share divided by earnings per share. Here we already know about how to calculate the dividend per share and also the earnings per share. So here it is easier to calculate this dividend payout ratio. Next is also an important one, which is the price earnings ratio. We have seen about this earnings per share ratio, dividend per share ratio, dividend payout ratio, and we have this price earnings ratio. This price earnings is able to make about the market price in which the company is performing in the share market and showing about the earnings per share. It is going to be measuring the expectations of the investor. So when calculating the PE ratio, that is the price earnings, they are able to find out the expectations and the market price of the share and make an appraisal for the performance of the business. The formula is going to be the market price per share divided by earnings per share. Next we have the fourth segment, which is the activity ratios. We have so far seen about the liquidity ratios, solvency ratios and the proprietary ratio, profitability ratios. We have the activity ratios, which is going to be giving the efficiency of the business. This ratio is going to be giving the relationship for the sales and various assets of the business. From this various ratios such as the inventory turnover ratio, debtors turnover ratios or average collection period, and assets turnover ratio, creditors turnover ratio and average credit period. What is this inventory turnover ratio? Which is going to be depicting how much is the number of inventory that is being taken place during the particular year, and it is going to be showing the relationship between the cost of goods sold and the inventory level at all the three levels of raw material, work in progress and the finished goods. The formula is going to be the cost of goods sold divided by the average stock. For calculating the average stock, we have to know about the opening stock plus closing stock divided by 2. And alternatively, there are other formula where we are having the sales divided by the closing inventory. Next, we have this stock turnover ratio is going to be has to be properly having neither too high or too low inventory ratio. Too high means they are having the low level of the inventory and danger stock is there. And on the contrary, when they are having the low level ratio where their high inventory and excess carrying cost is going to be incurred. Next, we are having the debtors turnover ratio and the average collection period. This debtors turnover ratio is able to make the liquidity of the firm and able to make the relationship between the credit sales, the customer collection and the payments that are to be made, and between the debtors and the sales. The formula is going to be turnover ratio is credit sales divided by average debtors and bills receivable, where we have to say about the average debtors, where within the 2 period calculation of the opening debtors plus the closing debtors divided by 2, or else if we do not have the 2-year comparison balance sheet, we can take the average of the debtors and the bills receivable divided by 2. And another one which is going to be the average collection period. So this average collection period in which the customer is able to make the payment on the particular period. Average collection period can be calculated by months bar days in a year divided by the debtors turnover. Next we have the debtors turnover ratio and the average collection period, in which they are taking about the efficiency of the business and able to make the proper credit management. Here the higher turnover ratio is able to indicate about the proper collection period and prompt payment from the debtors are being there, whereas the low turnover ratio is going to be indicating the delayed payments. And generally this shorter collection period is going to be highly preferred for the business. Next we have the assets turnover ratio. So this is going to be indicating the relationship between the assets, where we have the total assets turnover ratio, total which is taken for the calculation of the cost of goods sold divided by average total assets, and then fixed turnover ratio, we have the cost of goods sold sales or the cost of goods sold divided by average fixed assets. Then we have the capital turnover ratio. So we have the capital, that is the equity capital or the preference capital can also be taken for the turnover ratio calculation, in which we are having the formula sales or cost of goods sold divided by average capital employed, and we have this working capital turnover ratio, which is going to be taken for the short term evaluation of the business, where we have to see about the sales or the cost of goods sold divided by net working capital. The working capital has to be evaluated based on the current assets and the current liabilities, where we have to take about the current assets minus the current liabilities. Here the higher rate of the assets turnover ratio is going to be indicating about the effective management and proper utilization of the resources, whereas the low indication is going to be underutilization, and sometimes there will be idle utilization of the resources. Next we are having the creditors turnover ratio and the average credit period. In the debtors turnover ratio, we have seen the collection period. Here we are going to be seeing about the credit period. Here in this ratio, the creditors turnover ratio is going to be taken for the payments which are going to be made for the suppliers for the purchase of the raw materials that are being made, and relationship between the credit purchases and the creditors. The formula is credit purchases divided by the average creditors and the bills payable. In the debtors turnover ratio, we taken about the average debtors and the bills receivable. Here we are taking about the average creditors and the bills payable divided by 2. We are able to find out the average creditors and the bills received payable. Then we have this average credit period, which is similarly like the average collection period. We are having the average credit period, which is able to know about the payment that is going to be done for the raw material suppliers, which is taken for the calculation of month bar days in a year divided by the creditors turnover ratio. This creditors turnover ratio, as higher the ratio is going to be, the shorter period of payment, proper payment are going to be made, whereas if they are not having the good ratio, they are indicating a delay in payment to the raw material suppliers. So on the whole, this ratio analysis is going to be an important tool in the management accounting, similarly like various other tools. Here all the ratios such as the liquidity ratios, the solvency ratios, profitability ratios, and the activity or the turnover ratios will be representing for the each and every important detailed explanation of the financial performance and the current status of the business. I thank the opportunity given by the Bharat Institute of Higher Education and Research.